Major League Soccer is one of the fastest growing sports leagues in the world. It has taken America by storm, gaining thousands of new followers every season. Having the identity of one of the most progressive sports leagues in the United States, it still has its moments that heavily deal with race and politics. When it comes to racism within the sport of soccer, MLS is almost nothing like the European leagues. There always seems to be stories about how this team's fans are racist towards that team's player. While luckily it has never gotten to that level here in the United States, the league has still dealt with racism before. One incident I remember as a kid was when the New England Revolution played the Columbus Crew back on May 24th, 2008. The Revs ended up scoring a last minute winner, and one of the Columbus fans was caught on film yelling some extremely ignorant and racist comments towards the New England goal scorer celebrating in front of them, who was of African descent. Media outlets got a hold of this clip, and MLS was now in the national spotlight, with its fans being called racist thanks to one fan's stupid comment. That was 12 years ago, and while a lot has happened since then, some things sadly haven't changed all that much. When it comes to managers and coaches, according to The Athletic, out of the 142 non interim head coaches across the 25-year history of the league, only six black men have taken up the role of manager, none of them being American born. Ike Opara, defender for Minnesota United, questioned if he could even become a head coach if he wanted to once he retires. He stated, "Would I have a chance of becoming a head coach in MLS's current climate? That I don't know. I'd like to think that my reputation and connections, those things can help lead me to a job, but I'm sure there have been plenty of black players who have thought that and nothing has come from it." Owners of the clubs in the league are in just as bad of a spot, with very little representation there as well. The majority of the owners in the league are rich, powerful white men, meaning people of color have very few positions of power and influence in MLS. Deloy Hansen, owner of Real Salt Lake, was caught in a major controversy after the boycotting of games in support of Jacob Blake, who was shot multiple times by police officers on August 23rd. Hansen stated that the boycotting is a moment of sadness. It's like someone stabbed you and you're trying to figure out a way to pull a knife out and move forward. That's what it feels like. The disrespect was profound to me personally, and that he wasn't sure how much more he would invest into the team. Real Salt Lake defender Nedim Unuha was offended by these comments, saying, "I don't want to be here because I'm not here to play for someone who isn't here to support us." Fans have also played a part in the racism MLS has dealt with, recently with players kneeling before kickoff at the start of games. Fans have been critical of the kneeling and have been known to boo, yell, and even throw things at those taking a knee. This has happened twice, once in Dallas and another time in Salt Lake City. The Salt Lake City incident was the more recent, on September 12th, when Real Salt Lake played the Colorado Rapids. Fans started booing during the kneeling, which caught the attention of Real Salt Lake player Corey Barrett, who shook his head towards these fans. After the game, he posted on his Twitter saying, "During a moment of silence to support the Black Lives Matter movement, people booing and asking us not to make things political is ridiculous. Since when did racism become political?" The incident in Dallas, which happened on August 12th, exactly 1 month before the Salt Lake City incident, was a bit more severe, as there were over 5,000 fans in attendance for FC Dallas's game against Nashville SC. The players had asked for the national anthem not to be played as they planned on kneeling. However, the anthem was still played regardless, and the players still knelt. Fans booed and threw things onto the pitch, and after the game, FC Dallas defender Reggie Cannon received many racist comments and even death threats from those who disagreed with his actions. At a press conference, he said that the fans were disgusting and that "you've got fans booing you for people taking a stand for what they believe in, and millions of other people support this cause. We discussed with every other team in the league what we were going to do, and we've got fans booing us in our own stadium. How disgraceful is that? For lack of better words, it pissed me off." FC Dallas has since said that they stand with Cannon, saying that these comments are repulsive and unacceptable, and that there is no place in the sport or country for these kinds of comments made towards Cannon. I've only mentioned a few instances of racism within the league, and I'm sure there's loads more that I didn't mention. MLS has been doing a great job combating racism, especially after the murder of George Floyd on May 25th, in which they brought themselves on a whole new level. The Black Players Coalition of MLS was officially founded and launched on Juneteenth this year. According to the first statement made by the BPC, this is a new organization that will address the racial inequalities in our league, stand with those fighting racism in the world of soccer, and positively impact Black communities across the United States and Canada.
We pledge to help bridge the racial equality gap that exists in our league by lobbying for initiatives like implicit bias training, cultural education courses, and diversification hiring processes. Beyond addressing these overlooked systemic issues in soccer in this country, the BPC is committed to tackling the racial injustices that have prevented Black people from having an equitable stake in society. Among the many goals we will strive to achieve in our Black communities, some will include targeted spending, educational advancement initiatives, and mentoring programs. While this is a standalone organization, both MLS and the MLS Players Association have backed the BPC, and there are over 100 players who are members all across the 26 teams in the league. Another thing that definitely helped MLS in its fight against racism was the fact that it was the first professional male sports league back after all professional sports leagues in America were postponed due to the COVID pandemic. During the time without sports, the murder of George Floyd took place. MLS stated that it stands the Black community during these tough times, and that was definitely shown once the MLS's back tournament began in July. Before the kickoff of the first game between Orlando City SC and Inter Miami, all the players took a knee for the first time to show support, which has since happened before the start of all MLS games played this season. Not only that, but the entire Black player pool of all the MLS teams participating in the MLS's back tournament joined the Black Players Coalition in taking the field and putting on a powerful display alongside the Miami and Orlando players. They held a protest, lifting their right fists in the air, sporting black gloves, demanding social justice for Black men and women in America, while wearing shirts displaying positive messages to the Black community. While this only happened for the first game, throughout the remainder of the tournament, every single one of the players and staffs in all of the 26 MLS teams were spotted wearing Black Lives Matter t-shirts before, during, and after the game. Philadelphia Union took this one step further, in which their game against New York City FC, instead of having the last names of the players on the back of their jerseys, they were the last names of those who are victims of police brutality here in the United States. Players and managers all across the league have also been using their platforms to spread their anti-hate and anti-racism messages. FC Dallas defender Ryan Hollingshed stated that everyone in MLS needs to use their own platform if they believe in something. He stated, "It doesn't matter if we have 2,000 fans in the stadium or 1,000,000 fans watching us on TV. Whatever the numbers are, it's like we as human beings care about an issue, what platform we have to preach that issue, and we're going to use that platform as much as we can." Hollingshed, despite, in his own words, being a white privileged male who's been set up for success in every potential way his entire life, is taking a stand for his teammates who are affected by everything going on. Other people in the league have been sending out similar messages, like San Jose Earthquake's Danny Hozens, who is of Moroccan and Dutch descent. He said that with everything going on, people are finally starting to open up their eyes to things like this. Hozens received racist messages on social media, and he shared those with his team, who said that they were unaware of how bad people in this country have to deal with things like this, and they stand beside him. Players and managers all across the league have also been using their platforms to spread their anti-hate and anti-racism message, and the rest of MLS should fade anytime soon. He stated that yes, there will be people upset that they wear t-shirts on the sidelines saying Black Lives Matter, but if you're not for equality for all human beings, you shouldn't even come to the stadium. Going back to the MLS's back tournament, the Montreal Impact are playing the New England Revolution in their first game back since the postponings, and manager for Montreal Impact's Thierry Henry knelt on the Impact sideline for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, the same amount of time the officer knelt on George Floyd's neck. Using his first game back as a platform, he sent a very powerful visual message to everyone watching the game. The most recent, one of the biggest steps in MLS's plan to combat racism, is its new series of initiatives aimed at combating racism, advocating for social justice, and increasing Black representation in the sport, which was announced on October 19th. According to MLS's statement on their website, included in this was the formation of a diversity committee consisting of members from the MLS Board of Governors, MLS Commissioner Don Garber, representatives of the Black Players Coalition, and other members of the soccer community in the country. Some other things added within these initiatives were MLS owners contributing $1 million to the Black Players Coalition to help the organization grow over the next couple of years, A new MLS diversity committee to help develop a strategy towards diversity, inclusion, and social justice, a Southward Upward Mobility Initiative, which begins to help develop talent from unrepresented groups in the country, the Supplier Diversity Program, which gives opportunities for minority business owners to become suppliers for the clubs and the league itself, as well as other initiatives to help bridge the gap of race within MLS. Many other things have happened over the last few months in MLS fight against racism. Some examples being the boycotting of the games after the death of Jacob Blake back in August, which I mentioned earlier, as well as starting an investigation against Deloy Hansen after his racist and hurtful comments were broadcast to the public. Lots of people are looking to buy the team from him so that way he'll be kicked out and not a part of the RSL group at all. Looking into the future, will MLS be able to stop racism completely? Of course not. That would be nearly impossible. However, they have taken the right steps into help fighting back against racism within the league and are proving themselves to be leader when it comes to social justice in American sports.
In recent years, the line between sports and politics seems to grow thinner and thinner, and MLS is no exception to that. As mentioned before, everything regarding the Black Lives Matter movement and racism within the league is pretty political itself, with the MLS standing beside those protesting, but I've already talked about that, so there isn't much need for me to repeat myself. There are two recent moments within the league that stand out to me when talking about politics, those being Alejandro Bedoya and gun violence, and MLS attempting to ban any political signs from the fans. On August 4th, 2019, there were two mass shootings in El Paso, Texas, and Dayton, Ohio, killing over 30 people and injuring over 50. These two shootings happened within 12 hours of each other, shocking the nation and sparking a debate on the Second Amendment and gun control. Later that day, Alejandro Bedoya, player for the Philadelphia Union, scored the first goal that weekend and celebrated accordingly. What he did during these celebrations was completely unexpected, which I'll show in this clip right here.
In the third minute, the captain comes up with a very big goal.
Hey, Congress, do something now! End gun violence, let's go!
In case you couldn't understand, he yelled, "Hey Congress, do something now, end gun violence," into a field mic. This caused controversy due to the fact that not only did he tamper with the broadcast and equipment, but he spoke out on a very touchy topic on a national broadcast. Many people thought he should be fined or even suspended for this, but MLS later released a statement about his actions, saying that they understand that players and staff have strong and passionate views on the issue, and even gave him Player of the Week status that week. Many other players and managers across the league backed Bedoya, standing with him in his message sent out that evening. While MLS seemed to handle the Bedoya situation well, the league came across some backlash after it banned political signage later that same year. In a new fan code of conduct, the league started banning signs, flags, and banners with political imagery or statements on it. The league was specifically targeting fans using the Iron Front logo, an anti-fascism symbol, which was appearing more and more across the league, more specifically within the Northwest, in places like Portland and Seattle. The league was telling fans they either had to get rid of the signage with the logo or they would be asked to leave the stadiums. Portland fans took this to heart when they were asked to remove flags with the logos, as they were always free to use the symbol until this season. We unequivocally condemn groups that engage in hateful actions and speech, MLS President and Deputy Commissioner Mark Abbott said in a statement. We also recognize the importance of these values to our fans, but we don't believe our venues are the appropriate place for signage that promotes any kind of third-party political organization or groups, regardless of whether we agree with the tenets of that organization. Abbott went on to insist that the vast majority of fans attend MLS matches to enjoy the game. The ban on political displays is one thing, but many see MLS as hypocritical in their stance. This is a league that produced camouflage warm-up jerseys for all 22 American teams in honor of the armed forces. The Philadelphia Union also hosted a week to celebrate the American military in the lead-up to their home game against the Houston Dynamo that season. Was none of this a political display, the likes of which deemed in violation of the league's fan code of conduct? MLS has always been one of the most progressive leagues in the country. Still, it has its share of controversies that it can't seem to escape. Sports and politics will always become intertwined. It's up to the leagues to handle the situations correctly. And for the most part, MLS has done a decent job for a retirement home.